Welcome back, 1570 AM, Baltimore Positive WNST. My next guest is Nestor Aparicio. Nestor, welcome in.
What's going on, Dan? How are you? Happy March Madness. Spring is sprung.
Yeah.
Spring training, free agency, right? I mean, fishing's alive, golfing's alive. This is when it's good. When I get 70 degrees on the dashboard, that's when I feel like, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready to get short sleeves.
Yeah, it's a wonderful time. One of my coworkers went to the Capitals game the other night with his son. So there's all type of sports out there right now. It's a wonderful time of the year, and the NFL free agency frenzy's upon us. And the Ravens, after sitting on their hands the first 24 hours, have been quite busy as of late.
Yeah, I have you seen the meme of DeCosta with the cigar and the gold tooth yet?
I have. I've seen it, and the Ravens Twitter is undefeated, right? It's always very fun and entertaining. But
there's some creative people out there.
Very creative people with a lot of time on their hands. It's a scary, scary thing, scary proposition. But it is clear to me and everyone else, Nestor, the Ravens didn't like finishing in last place last season. We know they were 8-3 at some point, but finished fourth in the division. That's not acceptable, and they're taking massive steps and getting that right in that ship.
Well, Cleveland and Pittsburgh are helping them too. So, there's a little bit of that. Well, for the Ravens, they don't usually make the big splash. It's a $70 million signing of a safety. And we're going to be talking a lot about Marcus Williams, right? I mean, I dare I say Ed Reed or top of class, but better be a difference maker. You know what I mean? I don't know that he needs to go to the Hall of Fame, but I need to feel him every week. He needs to be on the field every week. And I think that has been something from Steve Bisciotti down that, you always say best ability is availability. That's your coach speak on it. And I don't think there's any question about that the injuries tore them up last year. And I think this offseason, one of uncertainty, right? Where you're on a 6-game losing streak, quarterback's got to get a contract. Half of your team, you're wondering, will that guy be ready on September 1st or whenever the schedule says we play our first game, right? Like Stanley, Peters, Humphrey, just go down the list. Bowser, all these guys have been injured, right? And whether they're going to Calais Campbell and the other guys that are floating around out there, we know Anthony Averett's not coming back now. I mean, Za'Darius Smith, if that is finalized and happens, he's a guy that was injured a lot last year, right? So just getting guys on the field and having them play. I mean, Lamar, you take Lamar away, you go from 8-3 to 0-6 like this. And we saw in front of us.
Yeah, the Za'Darius Smith signing concerns me, Nestor, because he only played one game last season. So whereas Williams and Moses are hardy players, they're available players, that one was a bit of a head scratcher for me. It wasn't a leg or an arm, it's his back. And, when you have a back problem, you've had some back issues. I've had back issues. It's not your toe. It's not something you can actually work around.
Well, yeah. And so I'm not shocked. They loved him coming up through. When he left, they felt the impact of him leaving, but they also had at that time dead Flacco cap money that they were dealing with at that point. And that's really, he's gotten tossed back over here or wherever he winds up based on the quarterback there getting $50 million. Now they can't afford him. It's not that they don't want Za'Darius Smith or didn't believe that he would come back and play. But to your point, anybody in the league last year would have taken Ronnie Stanley from the Ravens at a discount, right? Because they would have thought, we're getting a Hall of Fame left tackle once he gets the injury thing taken care of. And I think in the league, I don't know what the percentage is, and I'm sure there's a number on this. I'll call Dr. Chow, Pro Football Doc, get him on and, see what he has to say. But percentage-wise, 75 to 85% of players who get injured come back and perform similarly to the way they were. And we could talk about your pal Jimmy Smith and the Lee's Frank and whatever that is. He's still playing football 8 weeks ago, 10 years after having, or 8 years after having problems, right? But his career was shortened. I mean, I had Peter Boulware on recently, right? I mean, it's a brutal game, and there is no, Ryan Shazier, I got his book over here. I mean, he's coming on the program this spring too, that this can be taken away in a minute. This is what all this negotiating's for. And this is why all these guys are trying to get every nickel they can get out of the deal. But health is, we don't talk about it enough in the league, right? And it's unpredictable, but it is predictable if you already got a bad back, right?
Yeah, that one has the red flags all over it, but we'll see what happens. We wish him all the best. It's good to have Za'Darius Smith back in the fold, and it's good to see the Ravens making moves there. I guess the cap is a myth, Nestor. They're coming up with money I didn't think they had. So I guess when you front load these contracts and give massive signing bonuses, that's one way of getting around it. And you have to have sign off by the owner to do that as well.
Well, we have a different situation here, right? With Eric believing he's still going to be the general manager in 2025 and 26 and 27, and believing that he will be the one that has to pay the check, right? Half the places in the league, the general manager in 2024 will not be the person it is today, right? And some of them already know they're on the slippery slope trying to make numbers. And I mean, you're in the car business. You see it all the time at other dealerships. I mean, you've been where you've been for a long time, and there's stability, and that manages differently than desperation. And that manages differently than we're broken. Our time is running up. We haven't made the playoffs in 2 years. My coach is, in trouble. We've lost coordinators. We lost a veteran guy that's going to diminish us in some way. I mean, look, there are places like the Giants, the Seahawks, the Jets for the most part, although maybe they think they have a quarterback, so maybe they can turn the corner. There are some places in the league where they're playing football like the Orioles play baseball, right? Where we sort of know they're not going to win. But in most places in the league, there's a real hunger on all of this to win and win now, and at what cost? And the Ravens have never played that game. The Steelers have never played that game. Patriots have never played. I mean, the Eagles, when they were like run by one person, never playing that game. The Saints went a little deeper in. And when you have a quarterback at the end who's 36, 37, 38, and you're Sean Payton and you're running the team, you feel like tick tock, and my quarterback's tick-tocking, I'm tick-tocking, everybody's tick-tocking. It's not where DeCosta is. Doesn't feel like that's where Harbaugh is. You know what I mean? Harbaugh hates losing. There's no doubt about that. But I think he's as vested as he's ever been in winning. Lamar hasn't won. Mark Andrews hasn't won. None of these guys have won, right? I mean, it's a whole different class of people from we had 8 years ago. But paying that bill and emotionally, psychologically, having the checkbook out and saying, can I afford that? Will I afford that? When you're a general manager in trouble, and that's half the league, I don't think that matters. So to your point, to say that there's mystery money out there, that's between them and their owner, because the owner is going to get stuck with the bill, or the next general manager is going to get stuck with the bill, right? And that's something the Ravens don't live with. So they always act responsibly financially.
Well, all you have to do is look at the Deshaun Watson situation. There's 4 franchises that we're aware of chasing him, and you've got to be pretty desperate to chase him. 22 women with allegations. Whether something happened or not, there's an awful lot of smoke there, an awful lot of baggage, but they're willing to risk their careers all in on
Dennis,
Deshaun Watson.
imagine that right now. I
can't.
came in, said one of the guys on your dealership, your salespeople, mechanic in your office has 22 women saying that he did wildly inappropriate things short of sexual assault, that this was predatory and private. Because, by the way, last night, I want to say this, because I love a lot of female journalists, right? You know what I mean? Like, I've had long-term relationships with all sorts of cool female journalists, from Andrea Kramer and Leslie Visser through Bonnie Bernstein, and just down the line, Susie Colbert. I mean, just people I love. 2 fantastic ladies. One I know, one I don't. I do not know Mina Kimes. I've never been in her company. I've never really listened to her show. I don't really watch ESPN like that, or like, so I follow her on Twitter and I see what she's about, and I kind of, I dig it. It's cool. But she had Jenny Vrentas on, and Jenny's a friend of mine. Jenny went to Penn State. She's Sports Illustrated, Monday Morning QB person, and lots of mutual friends. We're friends, not friends, but I can get her on the show. She was on Mina's show, and everybody on my timeline said, "You got to listen to this. You got to listen to this. You got to listen to this." And last night, my wife walked in. I'm playing with the cat, listening on my phone to 2 ladies talk about this situation, right? 2 journalists. And my wife's like, "What are you listening to?" Like, I don't ever hear you listen to sports radio ever. My wife has never heard me listen to a podcast in her life. She's like, to listen to two women talk about this, Deshaun. What's up? And I'm like, well, that's Jenny Fuentes. That's Mina Kimes. I don't really know who Mina Kimes is much other than she got a lot of followers and people dig her, and she's mouthy in a good way about Seattle stuff. And I like her mom. And it's, but Jenny Fuentes has been on this from the beginning and started to like lay out the women she's talked to, the allegations that were made, sort of the wacky lawyer in Houston that was involved in all of this, how the team behaved. It's appalling. I mean, it's unbelievable. I think of people like you and me that employ people that have been sued, that have had problems, that have had like all of that. Like, I don't care how good you are, kid. 23 women following you around. You're going to have to go work over at that other dealership. You're going to have to work at that other radio station. You're going to have to quarterback some other football team in Canada or someplace they'll have you, because I just don't, I want to meet the 22 women first and sit in the room with them before I talk to you. That's what I would say. I would say before I bring my general manager and my human resources in to see if, you can throw the football, because we know you can do that. Let's talk to these women and find out what their stories. So that's why I spent time with it, because I wanted to talk to you about it. I wanted to be better informed about it. I'm going to get Jenny and grab her and bring her on the show. But like, I'm appalled as an employer. I just can't believe. And that's what Baker Mayfield's probably about. Like,
right.
Dude, that's where we're going. I don't want to work for you anymore. Dennis, if you're going to bring that guy in and call him my coworker and have me shine him up, I need to go find a new dealership to work for, because I can't work here anymore. And I think that's Baker Mayfield in his own way, just saying, no. Go ahead. Take the keys, go drive the car with him. I'm going to go somewhere else and play.
Absolutely. It's the old PAM scale, Nestor, when the attitude and maintenance of a player exceeds their performance or production, it's time to move on, whether it's Deshaun Watson or Antonio Brown. It's that attitude and maintenance versus performance or production in any business. That's the time to move on for that person. And I can't believe that there's still teams pursuing Deshaun Watson. And I also believe that Antonio Brown will play in the NFL at some point this year for some desperate team, some desperate GM who's trying to save his job.
Well, that's the nature of the league, right? And that's the nature of what we just talked about. You're like, there's no cap. They just spend. Well, if there's no parent and I have to win now, and how about the Rams guy, like, trading away the whole draft and mortgaging every. I mean, what does Les Snead care 6 years from now when he's out of the job that he overspent and brought the first Super Bowl back to Los Angeles? And what does Stan Kroenke care that they're going to be 3-16, 17, probably 17 by then? No, they'll play 18 games. 3-15. I'm trying to do the new math on all of this. What will they care that Matt Stafford's no good and Aaron Donald's 32 and fat and no good anymore? And you know what I mean? Like, what they won't care because they won. And that's in it for today, right? Like, that's just where it's at. Look at what the Dodgers are doing to try to win in baseball, right?
They're all in.
And then look at what the Orioles are trying to do, which is get the #1 overall draft pick again.
You got a team that's all in and all out. Fascinating stuff as always, Nestor. I appreciate your time. Any plugs you want to give before we get off the air today?
Well, here's a plug I want to give. March Madness is happening. We're going to be over at Costas on Friday with the Maryland Crab Cake Tour, brought to you by the Maryland Lottery. I have Betty Boop tickets and a lot of friends coming over. I mean, Dennis's Crab Cake Tour is the best idea I've ever come up with. And it was a little choppy last year, right? Because we had the summer, then I did my crazy tour and I came back, then everything gets shut down, right? And just getting together with people I like and hanging out has been just awesome. I had Jane Miller and Rob Roblin last week. This week, Mary Ann Scully, Bill Cole, Mike Rosenfeld's coming by. Rob Santoni from Wise Markets is coming by, who I know you know. So, this is going to be, it's fun. It's neighborhoody, but there's basketball. So it's even better. And March Madness. And we will see some inspired UMBC type of effort. And we can only hope that it's Duke that loses.
Well, let's go. Very, very well said. There you go. Nestor Aparicio here on 1570 AM WNST. We'll take a quick break and come back right after this.